Wanna fight? Yeah, I do. Golden Vow, activate. Flame grant me strength, activate. Wondrous Flask, activate. Aromatic. How about no? What? Ladies, gentlemen, and tarnished of all ages, how do you feel about making your hand glow, lifting it up, and then making some other stuff glow in the distance until things die? Well, if you're here, that's probably a major part of your general playstyle, because today is all about incantations. Specifically, after all the time that we spent in Elden Ring so far, something all too prevalent in games of all types is that people will find the thing that works the best, and most others will then slowly catch on and then do the same. The sad reality of this is that so many parts of games just end up unused, and while some of them are quite weak, so it is fair that they aren't used much, others are simply not talked about because they weren't found first, or because they are only the second best solution to a specific problem. But sometimes the second best solution to one problem is the best solution to another. And so today I'll be sharing what I believe to be 7 incantations that are underrated in Elden Ring, things you should absolutely consider carrying around in your faith build to supplement your playstyle. Without further ado, first off then will be a double up of fire spells that are very similar, Catch Flame as well as O Flame. I chose to put them together because they do function very similarly, but the real spotlight of this is of course O Flame, the Fire Monk incantation, as this one can be buffed with the Giant Seal, or even 2 of them. Fire damage as a whole in Elden Ring is also just generally very buffable, and also this thing is a charged skill which can be buffed even further. In practice, this thing totally melts things. Like, look at this freaking tree. I missed the first one. That is all in those other 2 hits that came out in under 2 seconds. The big thing with this is obviously I have built towards it, but this spell still hits relatively hard even as the thing that you just shove into your random toolkit in a non-fire based build. It is a great option to have around, and again, if you focus on it, it can become absolutely deadly. Catch Flame then is one of the basic incantations in the game that you get from Brother Gurranq. It is simply a short range burst of fire that is super quick to fire off. You can do it while sprinting, even after a weapon swing. It is a good combo piece, and it works well as a general companion to O Flame as the faster but weaker comrade. The damage is lower considerably, and it cannot be buffed by the same number of things, but the speed at which it can still do over 1200 damage easily is absolutely admirable, especially in something like PvP, where you can just sprint at your opponent and cast this non-stop once in range until they are forced to either commit to attacking you and then take a massive hit of their health and damage, or just sprint away from you in a straight line. If you want these, as I mentioned, Catch Flame is from Brother Gurranq, and then O Flame can be bought after finding the Fire Monk prayer book, which is located in the Fire Monk camp here in southern Liurnia. Second is going to be the Howl of Shabriri. This one I would say is in many ways properly rated, in many ways except for one though. When used, you release a large wave of madness around you, applying significant madness buildup as well as a bit of self-infliction too, so you can apply it to yourself. What the incantation doesn't say on the tin, however, the tiny little hidden bit, is that it is also a 20-second buff for yourself. This buff increases your damage dealt by 25%, but also increases your damage taken by 30%. So while it is a buff, and it is stronger as a buff than Flame Grant Me Strength, technically, it does have a drawback. That said, it increases all damage dealt, not just physical and fire, and thus this means that you can actually use this in far more ways to affect different things. Unfortunately, you cannot stack them together, but you know, you just gotta choose which one you want in which situation. And this damage buff part of this incantation is why I'm surprised that I never hear anyone talk about this. Sure, the Blast of Madness part isn't that big, but a 25% all damage buff is massive, even with the drawback involved. It's not even just physical and fire damage like Flame Grant Me Strength, it is all types of damage. If you want this one for yourself, you'll need to head to the Frenzy Flame Tower in northeastern Liurnia. Climb up 2 ladders from the ground floor and you will see a chest. Open it up and claim the incantation yourself. Third up is the Stone of Gurranq. This beast incantation is absolutely meaty, and in my opinion is something entirely worth building your entire character around the concept of spamming. Obviously, the FP cost can make this a bit tough as a main damage source and level clearing, but of all the beast incantations, this would be by far the best choice to use like that. The damage is very high, the projectile is relatively quick, and most importantly, the animation can be chained back to back to back with left and right facing throws to really make it non-stop, with your stamina actually being more of a limiting factor on this than the def P more often than not. That said, a number of things that can normally not affect elemental damage types. For example, the only spells in the game that Flame Grant Me Strength increases the power of are fire damage spells, which makes sense, and also then the beast incantations because they are physical damage. Enemies in the game that are resistant to elemental damage types in a specific bid to make you consider swapping to melee for a moment, instead get bodied by this incantation, because it is again physical magic. It is just a really neat tool to have in your kit, regardless of if you focus it or not, as a big meaty ranged physical option to carry around in your tool belt. To get it yourself, simply deliver death roots to Gurranq, specifically 6 death roots for this one, and if you want a guide on where to find those, check out our beast incantation video linked down below. Fourthly, we have Dragonbolt Blessing. This is a really interesting one. A buff, not an offensive spell, but while it is situational, the situations in which this is good at, it is actually really silly good with. Specifically, anytime an enemy tries to combo you in any sense using a one-handed weapon or power stancing 2 of them. And it also increases resistance to statuses to a lesser extent, and then in return for this, it lowers your lightning resistance. But the main benefit here is that any enemy who isn't two-handing their weapon or using a colossal weapon just cannot perform a combo on you any longer, which when it does work just makes life way easier for the simple cost of 1 spell slot. The beauty of incantations and sorceries is that while there are a limited number of spell slots that you can have filled at one time, you can change them any time that you sit down at a grace, meaning in any given situation you are allowed to adapt your toolkit to what's necessary. And so knowing that a tool like this exists makes you more likely to use it, and that's why this is here as an entry on this list. This is good. Use it. To get it yourself, simply go and loot it from the Stormcaller Church located in the Altus Plateau region. Fifth then is going to be Elden Stars. Yes, it is a legendary incantation, but nobody really uses it, even though it is. And you really should, especially since it was buffed in patch 1.04, speeding up the cast time, which makes it far more viable in more situations, as the main issue with this beforehand was the cast time itself. Now, yes, you will probably get hit while you are launching the spell off, but at least now, more often than not, the spell will actually go off as well, and once it does, you have a homing bomb of holy energy firing out small tracking missiles for ages until it connects with your target. There's simply no way to dodge every single hit of this attack, and the pressure that it can put someone under makes it quite easy to capitalize and hit them with something even bigger. This spell may not be something that one-shots people or bosses, but the distraction that it creates will let you set up the one-shots in PvP, and in PvE it is just a stream of consistent damage, though the place this one shines is definitely more against other players. To get this one yourself, first get to the Deeproot Depths region of the game. Then from the Great Waterfall Crest Site of Grace, head towards the tree roots and then jump off of them to find that one goes up to the cliff wall. Follow it into the cave up there, then run all the way to the end of the cave to find the Elden Stars incantation. Sixthly, today is going to be the Law of Regression incantation. While this one does have some very rare effects in PvE, the main reason that I want to highlight this is clearly PvP. This incantation requires 37 intelligence, which is quite meaty for someone using incantations, but an int user with enough faith to use a seal can just sort of sneak it into their build too, quite easily in fact. And what it does is reset both you and your opponents to your default state. It removes all buffs and debuffs. I showed you Dragonbolt Blessing earlier. That is one of the least annoying buffs that is used in all of the game, but as if by some divine providence, when I was using it, someone walked up with Law of Regression and just zapped everything off of me, like I am doing to others. This is, however, the only time that I've actually seen someone do this to me in all of my time in PvP, and I have no idea why, because especially in duels, a lot of people just spend the first 20 seconds at the start buffing up, getting more powerful, becoming one-shot machines, and this incantation lets you just stop it. If you are someone who doesn't have a very buffable build yourself, but keep finding yourself against people who are using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength, this evens the playing field a notable amount. You can even use the incantation and then drink your Wondrous Flask so that you have your buffs and they don't. It's just a neat little trick that you can do. If you want this incantation for yourself, from the Erdtree Sanctuary Site of Grace, head to the balcony and then up the tree branch outside to loop back into the second floor of the building and go out of the door, but then jump back onto the roof on your left and then in through the window, running around the entire edge of the room to eventually reach another route where you can reach the Golden Order Principal Prayer Book. Exchange it with a faith vendor and then you can purchase this incantation. Finally then on the agenda will be the Blessing of the Erdtree. This one is quite simple. For 90 seconds after casting this, you and anyone who was in the circle that was there when you casted it it will regain 12 health per second. Yeah, I know, 12 health per second isn't a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, but think of how many times you have survived a hit by an absolute sliver of your health bar, and think about how many more times you may survive with just that little passive bit of healing. We have 10 spell slots in this game, people, and you should absolutely consider the possibility that one of those 10 should go to something that's just constant, never-ending healing to help you in every fight in the game. No matter how small this healing is, every edge is an edge, and you have 10 slots that you should be using. This is a passive edge that will help you in any fight in the game. To get it for yourself, then, simply reach the Queen's Bedchamber Site of Grace in Lane Dell as part of the story progression, and you'll find it in the room there. And that just about covers it, everyone. A whole 7 incantations that you all need to be using more. Yeah, some of them are just straight up offensive powerhouses like Stone of Gurranq. Elden Stars, though, is more something to create an opening in itself. And then we have a number of buffs of different varieties because there is absolutely no reason to avoid taking advantage of the options presented to you in this game to prepare adequately for the challenges within. I hope you've come away with this reinvigorated with energy to mess with your own incantation setup to really fill up your slots with things that you can actually use. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.